Okay, so good day everyone. We have here the topic wave speed equation practice problems. Okay, so the formula we are going to practice today is the wave speed equation. Okay, so wave speed is equals to wavelength times the frequency, and we have the formula S is equals to the wavelength times the frequency. Okay, so V is the symbol for the wave speed, which is meters per second. Lambda is your wavelength in meters, and F is for the frequency in hertz. Okay, so take note that is in hertz. Okay, so let's discuss frequency. Frequency is the number of cycles per second. Okay, so frequency is number of cycles per second. Okay, so that is what we call the frequency. Okay, so if 10 waves pass in 1 second, then that is 10 cycles divided by 1 second, and that is 10 hertz. Okay, if 6 waves pass in 2 seconds, so we have 6 cycles divided by 2 seconds, and that will be 3 hertz. Okay, so that is the computation for the frequency. Okay, so that is number of cycles per second. Okay, so sample problems. We have sample number 1. A wave has a frequency of 50 hertz and a wavelength of 10 meters. So what is the speed of the wave? So we have here our formula. So let's copy our formula. Copy and paste. So we have S is equals to the wavelength times the frequency. So we have, so therefore we have, okay, so let's align. So S is equals to the wavelength is 10 meters. So 10 meters multiplied to the frequency, which is 50 cycles per second. Okay, so 50 cycles per second. So we have S is equals to 10 times 15, that will be 500 meters per second. Okay, so that is 500 meters per second. That is the speed of our wavelength with 10 meters. Okay, so another example. Say another example. What is the wavelength? Okay, so we're going to solve for the wavelength. Wavelength of a bandwidth of a 10 megahertz bandwidth. Okay, so what is the wavelength of a 10 megahertz bandwidth? It's our second question. Okay, so let's define first what is bandwidth. Okay, so bandwidth. Okay, so bandwidth are range of frequencies, a range. Okay, so a range of frequencies that a signal, okay, that a signal occupies. Okay, occupies. Or say for example channel, or say for example an FM station, say for example FM station at 100.1 megahertz. Okay, so usually the bandwidth of FM station is 0.9 megahertz. Okay, so that is the bandwidth of FM station. 10.1 megahertz, that is the center frequency. That is the frequency in which the this channel operates. Okay, so that is the center frequency. The bandwidth is 0.9 megahertz, so meaning we have the upper frequency and the lower frequency. And that the range, upper frequency, so bandwidth, okay, so computation for bandwidth is equals to the upper frequency minus the lower frequency, and that is your bandwidth. Okay, bandwidth of a TV station, that is bandwidth. We have your center frequency and you have also your upper frequency and the lower frequency. Okay, so there are different meaning of bandwidth with respect to each application. Say for example, in AM and FM station or TV station, you have there your bandwidth, that is upper frequency divided by the lower frequency. In data, okay, so in data subscription, you have also a bandwidth. Bandwidth is different from the bandwidth of communication system. The data bandwidth is different from, but it is also called a bandwidth. Meaning, for the data, say for example, you have a bandwidth of 100 gigabits. Okay, so you have a bandwidth of 100 gigabits, meaning for one day you can use only 100 gigabits. Okay, or 100 gigabits for 1 month. So meaning, if you have 100 gigabits for 1 month, so 100 divided by 30, and that is 3.3 giga or 3.3 gigabytes. Okay, so you have 3.3 gigabytes bandwidth for 1 day. Okay, so that is consumable bandwidth. Okay, so let's solve our second example. Okay, so second example, we have, what is the wavelength of a 10 megahertz bandwidth? So we have the computation. We also use the lambda. Okay, so lambda, what is the wavelength? So lambda, this is our wavelength, is equal to, okay, so equal to velocity or the speed of light. So that is 300,000 meters per second divided by the frequency, and our frequency is 10 megahertz or 10 million hertz. Okay, so that is our frequency. So therefore our wavelength is so 300 divided by 10, and that will be 30 meters. Okay, so 30 meters. That is our wavelength. Okay, so I hope you understand the discussion through this video, and good day and God bless us all.